Hello, BookTube. I have mail once again. So I had a little mail on Monday. I have a little mail to share with you on Tuesday. A great amount of this is periodicals. I got a pile of periodicals reminding me of days gone by, of days gone by when once upon a time for 40 years here in Boston, I would save my periodicals and read them all at a little hole-in-the-wall Chinese food place that wasn't really a restaurant. I mean, there were tables, a couple of them, but no one knew about this place. It wasn't listed anywhere. The sign out front was old and indecipherable. It was just a family-run thing, and it did a prosperous business because the food was delicious, just delicious. But I was the only white person that I ever saw there, except for once in a while when a group of insufferable people would wander in just by chance. I used to go there and I ordered the same thing every time, and I would just sit at the same table in the corner and I would just luxuriate in periodicals. That was great, absolutely great. So that I was not the kind of person that I knew everywhere else. Everyone I knew was 100 issues behind in reading the New Yorker, for instance, or way behind in the New York Review of Books or whatever. And I was never that. I was always up to date on my periodicals. I would read them with a pen in hand. And make note of what cranky letters I wanted to fire off to the editors. And was seeing this pile. I got a pile of periodicals all at once, and that brought back memories of that. That's never going to happen again. But I wanted to show you with you, take a brief walkthrough. I got the first two that I want to show you are square-bound glossies. Lots of money behind these, lots of ads behind them. Unfortunately, lots of the ads in the first one, GQ, are for tobacco products. Just amazing to me. It's just amazing to me that there hasn't been a concerted public outcry for these places to stop giving full-color ads to tobacco products. When there isn't any doubt anymore here. There isn't any question anymore here. No matter what tobacco companies might say, there's no way to use their product responsibly. They say if you use our product responsibly, then we're off the hook and no one's to blame. It's only the people who use it irresponsibly that are the problem. But the products have been chemically engineered in secret laboratories that are kept away from public view by lawyers. For well over 100 years, these products have been bioengineered so that you can't use them responsibly. So that they have been bioengineered to the point where they're all you think about, where they quickly change your body's chemistry, and where you become addicted and cannot use them responsibly. Because the way to use a product that has a colloidal suspension of 5 different carcinogens would be not to use it at all. And yet, there are color ads all throughout every issue of GQ. It just amazes me. But GQ has money, and they can pay good writers. And so I look at their issues whenever I get one. I look at the issue to see if there's anything in it that I'm really going to like. Every once in a while, there'll be an article that I will really like. Not in the case of this issue, unfortunately. This issue did everything wrong right from the beginning, right from the cover. I don't know why in 2020... this is just bad form. This person, Kanye West, is obviously severely mentally ill. To use him as a means to increase the profitability of an issue of your magazine is no different than in the 18th century, you and your friends going to Bedlam to laugh at the maniacs chained to the walls. It's no different than that. This is just shameful. This person doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know who he is or what he's doing. He's severely mentally ill, and you have him on the cover of a magazine as a fashion icon. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And it lent a soiling feeling to the whole issue. But the issue did a lot to help with that. These square-bound lad mags are meant for conspicuously consuming coke-addicted Wall Street interns, Wall Street first-year and second-year guys, the type who have Boiler Room memorized and live that life and have a ton of money that they can't spend because they're at work 17 hours a day, and they're proud of that fact. These magazines, Esquire and GQ, are aimed at them, and that's where a lot of the ads go. That's what makes the tobacco ads all the more reprehensible. That's exactly the age in which you want to be encouraging these young men to stop or not to take up such habits, because the habits will win. The habits will be there. You can go to the gym. That takes a huge effort of will. The older you get, the huger the effort of will that takes to go. It doesn't take any effort of will at all The addiction will always be there. It will be in bed with you at 3 in the morning. It'll be in bed with you first thing in the morning. It'll be out on the sidewalk when you've got nothing to do with your hands or your mouth. It will be in every piece of culture that you have, every single Hollywood movie that makes it look like the coolest thing in the world to do. It will be reinforced 1,000 different ways all the time. The addiction is there all the time, just patiently, effortlessly waiting. So all the stuff you do to compensate, the exercising, the donating to charities, including cancer charities. I've seen some addicts do that. None of it means anything at all. So you fall for an ad in one of these magazines, fine. You do that when you're 25, making $150,000 a year at Bear Stearns. When you're 60, you're not going to be able to walk up a flight of stairs. You're going to smell like an open grave, and you're going to have lung cancer. If you don't have it before then, you're going to have lung cancer. That's an awful long price to pay for falling for this advertising, these things. But the advertising isn't the only thing. I mean, this is advertising too. They will often, magazines like this will often show you all the cool, hep products, and they're obscene. Most of them are obscene. $30,000 for a wristwatch? $30,000 for a wristwatch. Or more than that. There are ads in every issue here for things like that. There's a wristwatch here. It's not $30,000, but it's, the Tag Heuer Carrera to celebrate the brand's 160th anniversary. The watch is, that's it right there. It's just a normal, multi-face, ugly analog watch. You have the clock on your phone. You consult your phone 50 times an hour, so you know what time it is. But this is $6,450, this watch. That's fairly cheap compared to some watches that I see in these lad mags. But the thing that got me this time around was these. Those are leather shorts. Thick, brown leather shorts. So they are ugly. They're non-functional because you can't clean them. And they make you look like a combination of a circus clown and a douche canoe. In other words, a completely useless piece of clothing. You'd have to be an absolute moron and an a-hole to even want to wear such a thing. It's $2,800. That pair of shorts is $2,800. So this issue of GQ was not a success for me at all. Then we move on to another square bound. It's a glossy, but it's not quite a lad mag. It's a little more atmospheric and almost always more readable, more entertaining than GQ or Esquire, and that's Vanity Fair. And this issue was great. Just great. Just fantastic. It had so much stuff in it. The closing interview was with Helena Bonham Carter, and it was the Proust questionnaire was really, really good. It's always interesting anyway. Vanity Fair has a long-standing love affair with British royalty, and in this case, it's Princess Anne, Queen Elizabeth II's only daughter. And this is just a long profile by Katie Nichol that is very good. What have you got, baby? What have you got? You want to see your fans? Whoop. Oh. Mizubu. Kushkupu. Vanity Fair has a sweet tooth for royalty of all kinds, present royalty and past royalty. And they regularly have good articles, really fun articles. They also have a sweet tooth for literary stuff. Every other issue or so, there's usually a long piece about something literary. A feud or a particular author, often adapted. What have you got, baby? What have you got? Oh, nothing. Okay. Sorry. I thought there was something living on the ground. The other day she was making a big fuss over something, and I wasn't looking to see what it was. And then I did get up and see, and there was a little spider making its way across the floor, and she was wondering what it is. and how dare you? What are you doing? Stop moving. I don't want to examine you. The same thing she does with everybody. She looked at me. Of course, my answer for all my dogs forever has always been the same. If you can catch something alive where we're living, you can kill it. I won't kill anything myself. If I find a bug in the shower or whatever, I will. My surly houseboy has trained me well. I will put it outside. I will carefully shepherd it outside. But dogs? I take away a lot. All owners take away a lot from dogs. We don't let them hunt. We don't let them come and go as they please. Most people don't. So if I can extend to this dog a little freedom, then I will do that. And I'm wondering what it is. Something has definitely got you going. Well, be that as it may, I was mentioning literary. That Vanity Fair will often do something literary. Nothing literary really in here, but they will also do true crime. High society true crime. They have a strong audience built up for that. Dominic Dunn used to write for them all the time, and they do it really well, really well. And in this issue had a lot to recommend it. A lot of interesting things in here. But even in a very strong issue, the highlight of the whole thing was true crime. Let me show it to you. Oh yeah. Okay. The low mark was the pictorial spread of the new Dune movie with Timothée Chalamet. That's a still suit, and they're filming in Abu Dhabi, and that's okay. I can live with that. The costuming looks fairly good. I got to one particular paragraph in this brief summary that bugged me a lot. It bugged me a lot. It was this. In an intriguing change to the source material. The source material is a novel by Frank Herbert. The thing you're adapting is a novel by Frank Herbert. Villeneuve, that's the director, has also updated Dr. Liet Kynes, the leading ecologist on the planet Dune, and an independent power broker amid the various warring factions. Although always depicted as a white man, the character is now played by Sharon Duncan Brewster, a black woman. Quote, what Dennis had stated to me was that there was a lack of female characters in his cast, and he had always been very feminist, pro-women, and wanted to write the role for a woman, the actress says. This human being manages to basically keep the peace among many people. Women are very good at that, so why can't Kynes be a woman? Why shouldn't Kynes be a woman? And I know the question is rhetorical, but it has an answer. The reason Kynes should be a woman, should be a man, is because he was a man in the book. And if you're the director and you're adapting Frank Herbert's Dune, and you don't think there are enough women in it, then you should adapt some other book. It's kind of stupid to look at the source material, Frank Herbert's novel, and say that women are underrepresented, or that there are no strong women character parts in the show. That's kind of dumb. And it means you probably didn't actually read the book or know anything about it, despite the director's pro-forma protestations that he's always loved it. We did a Dune read-along on this channel. Plenty of you have read Dune many times. There are a couple of things that stand out from Dune that really stick in your memory. They're all about women. And the reason why Liet Kynes shouldn't be a woman is because of Chani. And also because that's not what it is in the novel. And you're not doing that because you think the plot calls for it. Let's take, for example, Peter Jackson's adaptation of The Fellowship of the Ring. Okay? In Peter Jackson's adaptation of The Fellowship of the Ring, Frodo and his friends and Aragorn are almost at Rivendell, and the Black Riders are closing in on them. And they, in the book, encounter help from an elf lord named Glorfindel. And he is very old and very powerful, and the Black Riders are chary about challenging him, especially in the daylight, so close to Rivendell. Peter Jackson adapted that. He changed it. Since he wasn't going to have Glorfindel in the story, wasn't going to have another powerful elf lord, there was going to have Elrond, and he was going to have Legolas. Since he wasn't going to do that, and since he wanted Arwen, Elrond's daughter, to be a character as she is in the book, he has her rescue the hobbits at the ford from the Black Riders. He has her do it, and he adds a bit of dialogue. And I don't know a single Lord of the Rings fan who had a problem with that, especially once they knew that Jackson was going to write out Glorfindel. You can't write out Arwen. But that he was going to write out Glorfindel as just an extraneous character. A little bit of a problematically extraneous character, in my opinion. As I've said many times about the Fellowship of the Ring, why isn't Glorfindel part of the quest? If he's willing to leave Rivendell, if he's so handy against Black Riders, why? But one way or another, I don't know a single Lord of the Rings fan who objected to that, because that was not a violence to the book. In the way that making Elrond a woman would have been violence to the book. In the way that making Arwen a man and having Aragorn love her anyway would have been violence to the book. It bothers me. The answer to your question is Kind should be a man because that's how Frank Herbert wrote him. And if you, as the director, don't like that, if you look at Dune and think there aren't enough women characters here, adapt something else. But anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about is written by Christopher Bollen, Bollen, and it's called Murder at Sutton Place. And there is the bathroom under forensic lighting so that you can see the blood. That is what it looks like under a fluoroscope. And it's the story of a young man. There he is with his father figure, a handsome young man who came to Manhattan and got an incredible social boost into the social world by being more or less adopted by his diamond jeweler father figure, who eventually gave him his last name. In the article speculates that in part that was done to quell the natural rumors that the diamond jeweler had picked up a boy toy for his bedroom, and the young man had an apartment of his own at Sutton Place, and there was an evening, there was a party, a bunch of friends, lots of cocaine, lots of alcohol, and something horrible happened. A guest ended up dead and hacked to pieces in the bathroom, and then wrapped in Mylar into a gunny sack and buried in a local peat bog. And this young man went to jail for it, and all of his Confederates have as well. Because the district attorney, the article, Bollen does a fantastic job describing the setting, the background, the trial, the murder itself. Oh, it's just, the article, if you like true crime, it sells the issue all by itself. And there's a great moment. I wonder if I can find it quickly. Boy, oh boy. Oh boy, was this good to read. Yes, I think, can I find it? Neither one of the two young men who was present with the victim admits that they killed him. They're sort of pointing fingers at each other. I wonder if I'll be able to find it. Yeah, here we go. Jimmy, that's one of the main guilty people. Jimmy has never denied his complicity in the cover-up. The overwhelming evidence left him little choice. Daylight was now streaming into the apartment. Neither Larry nor Jimmy had slept, and the irreversible horror of the situation must have been stealing into their consciousness. Larry alleges Jimmy took a kitchen knife and tried to dismember Joey, that's the victim, Joey's body, in the tub. That was plan A. After Jimmy's failed attempt to cut through Joey's upper arm, he and Larry had improvised another method of secreting the body out of the building. During that Sunday morning and afternoon, they wrapped Joey in saran wrap and a comforter. They scrubbed and bleached the apartment. They dumped their clothes into the building's garbage collection, along with the bloody towels, sheets, and victim's possessions, his wallet, his clothes, a broken gold neck chain. They canvassed the Grand Sutton's hallways, searching for an exit that wasn't monitored by cameras. The two men were also ordered a delivery from Bear Burger. Carter read aloud in court all $76 worth of ingredients, like, quote, add beef on a brioche bun, medium rare with a country bacon, quote, as if the extra toppings added to their guilt. And they dumped the body in a little marshy area, and so when the police finally centered in on them, there wasn't anything really. The police could get them for a whole bunch of other stuff, but the victim's father was sure that his son had been murdered. There was closed-circuit TV cameras showing that he went back into the apartment that morning. He did not leave, as the two perpetrators said he did, originally, said that he left. The father was sure that something had happened. And at one point, he was visiting the building when he saw the garbage truck pulling up. Let me see if I can read you this. He noticed a porter carting the building's garbage out for collection. Pat ran inside and told Castro that they had to hold the garbage back, just in case. That quick thinking resulted in hundreds of pieces of physical evidence. In retrospect, had Pat not pleaded for help at the Manhattan precinct that Monday morning, the police might not have recovered the surveillance footage or blood-soaked evidence from the trash. Quote, if this was an individual from California who only spoke to his parents once a week, Pat postulates, A week goes by, these guys get away with it. Video is gone, garbage is gone. Just a chill down your spine. The way all good, true crime writing does. So that was just absolute delight. That sold the issue for me, even if the rest of it hadn't been really good, and it was. And then the next thing we do is Squarebound, but it's not a lad mag. It is, in fact, the greatest magazine in the world. And in my opinion, the greatest magazine in the history of the world. And that is National Geographic. This is the new National Geographic. You'll miss them when they're gone. Talking about insects, and I'm getting a little bit too much insect material for my days, as I did the arthropod book tag. But this article is all about how, it's by Elizabeth Kolbert, the great writer Elizabeth Kolbert, the author of The Sixth Extinction. And it's about how insect populations all over the world are in critical decline, and it extrapolates what will happen, since it has to. Its human readers aren't going to care. Most human readers are going to say good riddance. You have to make it a case for what they will miss. It extrapolates what will happen in the world if these insects disappear, if all of these big insects disappear. And it was fascinating, alarming, but fascinating. My friends and I have look at that, great National Geographic photography. My old friends and I have a little game that we play with every issue of National Geographic, where we look at the contents and decide who wins. We decide what part of, does some part of the contents of every issue form a bullseye with one of us, so that, is it set in Sicily? Okay, well, one of us lives in Sicily. Is it set in Namibia? Okay, one of us lives in Namibia. Is it about? And there are no actual bullseyes in this issue, but there were some fascinating things in here, and I was surprised that the best article in here isn't about the natural world. It isn't about animals or conservation or mountains or volcanoes or anything like that. Instead, it's about autism. And it was great. Absolutely great. It was written by Judith Newman, and the photographs are by Lynn Johnson, and it's called Coming of Age with Autism. And it is great. Finding work, love, and independence can be especially difficult for those on the spectrum, but there's hope that things are starting to change. And the article is great, and it is full of fantastic black and white National Geographic art, photography, just great stuff. All about what autistic people anywhere, from the light end of the spectrum to the very noticeable end of the spectrum, can face in the world, and how that is changing. I wasn't expecting to see it in National Geographic. In fact, I would more likely have expected to see it in something like Vanity Fair, but it was so good. And I had to laugh at one point. It's a very hopeful article, first of all, but I had to laugh. The caption for one of these photographs is, Christian Golan, 25, plays with his cat at home in Virginia. He manages a pet supply store where he feels there are fewer social expectations to worry about. He is high-functioning, so he's a high-functioning autistic. His wife, Catherine Bettendender, is not on the spectrum. And in the photograph, the one thing that is missing, the one diagnosis we know that the husband is a high-functioning autistic. So he is at the end of the spectrum where he can hold a job out in the world, and he can make a weekly wage, and he can have a house and whatnot. Plenty of people on the autistic spectrum can't do those things. This article deals with the whole spectrum, and it's really good that way. And we're told that his wife is not on the spectrum at all, but no mention is made of the most obviously mentally impaired and spastic creature in the household. It's great that they're both doing fine, but has anyone bothered to check on the animal that they live with? Because I don't know what's wrong with these creatures. I really don't. But I got all the way to the end of the issue, and it was just fantastic, as always. Almost every issue of National Geographic is. And I thought, all right, well, no bullseyes. There have been no bullseyes for Steve in this issue. And then I got to the very end, a little Instagram profile of the photographer Vincent Moosey. Let me read you a line here. For 25 years, Moosey has photographed the planet's most majestic wildlife for National Geographic. In 2018, he turned to more vulnerable animals, shelter dogs. His portrait series, The Underdogs, features older canines, some with missing limbs or sensory impairments, that are difficult to adopt out to homes. The photographer thinks that Hodor, that's this dog, an 11-year-old hound dog pictured above, would make a great companion, and if he could talk, would probably have great stories to tell. And I read that, and all I could think was, if I was in the same room with Hodor, if he could talk. Kind of stupid speciesism is that? Of course he can talk. And of course he has stories to tell. They aren't compartmentalized and ruled by the temporal region of the brain the way humans and primates are, but still, if he could talk. This was absolutely fantastic. Just another great National Geographic issue. And then the last periodical that I got was right up my alley. It was the New York Review of Books. The new New York Review of Books came. And it has lots and lots of great stuff. Of course, unlike with the others, with New York Review of Books, I have to check the table of contents first of all to see if anybody is writing in the issue that I hate, or that writing for the issue is more likely, but also that no one's book is reviewed, the author of which I hate. And this issue is completely clear, completely free. In fact, there are a couple of people in the table of contents this time around who I know and really like. So it was great fun. And there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Michael Greenberg wrote a piece. There are a lot of politics in this issue. His is about Governor Cuomo of New York. Just a political profile of the job that he has been doing, leading his state's response to the pandemic, and really the country's response to the pandemic. He has been watched more in the last 2 months than any other politician in the country, in a positive way, that is, as someone who's doing it responsibly and intelligently and listening to the science instead of freewheeling. And then there's another piece. It's avant-garde. And I don't like avant-garde artwork. I don't think that a lot of it is really very artistic. But the piece is written by Jed Pearl, and he's great. He's fantastic, and do no wrong. So that was great. And that's the neat thing about the New York Review of Books, is that they can get the very best people to do reviews. Claire Willis reviews The Mirror and the Light. There's Hilary Mantel as Thomas Cromwell. It was a very good review, very long review. I will pull it out and fold it up and put it in my copy of The Mirror and the Light. It's my hardcover copy of Mirror and the Light is just slowly, surely filling up with reviews. Fintan O'Toole does a piece on sort of a parallel companion piece, a response piece to the Greenberg thing about Trump's handling of the pandemic. Of course, all of this, both of those pieces have the inevitable feeling of yesterday's news because they were written and went to press before the President of the United States mused aloud that maybe people should inject detergent. So they should inject bleach into their body to fight this thing. And I don't know. It's just an idea off the top of my head. I'm just musing aloud. I want, exactly what he wants. He wants the headlines and the history books to read. He wants scientists. His idea of scientists to say, he just mused it off the top of his head, but it was the breakthrough we needed. That's what he wants. That's what he thinks in his mind that he's doing. And that's what he thinks in his mind that he did, even during that infamous press conference. But that's the risk you run here is, when you write an article like that, is that it's going to be yesterday's news. Same thing with that really, really good book we saw on this channel, China and the World. A study of China's relationships with the world outside its autocratically controlled little kingdom that is immediately feels like it needs a long PS at the end, a long appendix, because it doesn't, of course, mention a pandemic. Same thing. You run that risk, and that is extra pronounced now. There's an article here called by Edward Chancellor about a book by Janek Wasserman called The Marginal Revolutionaries, How Austrian Economists Fought the War of Ideas. And it was the second time in this issue of the New York Review of Books that, what's his name? Hayek is mentioned. All the greatest hits are in here. But Hayek is as well, and even Hayek doubted whether the Austrian school continued to exist once it was transplanted to foreign soil. One mention of Hayek in an issue of the New York Review of Books is enough. For me, I'm not sure that I need more than that. I don't know the book either. I don't think I ever got it. I don't think I sent it to Open Letters resident finance wonk David Murphy. I don't think anything like that happened. I just don't think I ever got it. And I believe that was mostly it for for articles that were of direct interest to me. There was a really good piece on environmental change, rounding up a bunch of books. Yeah, that was the end of the New York Review of Books, but that wasn't the end of the mail. I also got a couple of packages, and I thought we'd open them together. I wasn't expecting packages, but let's see. There's just two here, and then we'll finish up. What is this first one? Oh, ow! Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. All right. This is here. I'm going to put that. I'll put that away over there somewhere. This is another Epic collection. I talked about Epic collections during a comic book video. Marvel Comics is recently, I say recently, probably 10 years ago, a little bit less than that, started these thick, generous, full-color reprint volumes called Epic collections. They're not cheap. They're $40 a piece. But they reprint lots of issues, usually 20 issues. They do them in full color, and that is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You get a chance to experience these things. Marvel did big, fat, financially generous, issue by issue, reprint volumes called the Essential line that were in black and white to save money. And I have learned over the course of owning Essential volumes that not only are they in black and white, but the ink that's used on them blurs and rubs off after time. So they might have been great to grab up just if you're a new comic book fan and you're trying to catch up on all the back issue lore. But they wouldn't have been anything to have. Whereas the Epic collections are on higher quality paper. So nothing like that's going to happen. And I looked at an Epic collection of Thor that I showed you, Into the Black Nebula, which I have all the individual issues. I have all the individual issues of most of these things. But the collection of Thor had a bunch of issues that I had otherwise, but it had a lot more of them all in one volume. And I got another Thor Epic collection. This is called When Titans Clash. There is Thor fighting the Absorbing Man on the cover. Why? I have no idea why that would be the cover when this issue features Thor fighting the Hulk and also Thor fighting Hercules. Why isn't Thor versus the Hulk or Thor versus Hercules on the cover of this collection? I have no idea. But this collects a lot of stuff that I have mostly in either a big Marvel Treasure edition that's too delicate for me to read anymore, or in a gigantic hardcover omnibus that's a little unwieldy. It's a little bit uncomfortable to lug around or read or whatnot. This has all of those, plus all the Tales of Asgard backup features, and that's just great. That's just fantastic. Big, generous thing. And this came in the mail. Fantastic. So for my Comic Book Wednesday, I'll have old stuff to reread. Great. Fantastic. And then we have another package here. No idea what this could be. Neither one of these things seemed to me on the surface, on the porch, like they came from a publisher. And that makes sense, right? Because publishers aren't really sending me stuff anymore. So these could be online orders. I've done a tiny amount of online ordering of books. And that's what these could be. This one was, but this one doesn't really count because I was doing these things from Amazon. What is this next one? Oh no, this is plastic, baby. You can't have plastic. What have we got here? Okay, all right. Something's going on here. Something's going on here. We saw something like this already. Where one of you, or maybe more than one of you, now I wonder if it is more than one of you noticed that I really like the old Everyman's Classic library hardcover volumes with the beautiful dust jackets. They either have the black and white cover or the slightly later cover that have a beautiful piece of artwork overlaid, the cover overlaid over a beautiful piece of artwork. And one of you went online and ordered me a copy. It's not hard to find my mailing address. I've given it to so many of you. One of you went online and ordered a very nice secondhand copy of The Adolescent by Dostoevsky in a Peviar and Volkonsky translation in the Everyman Library hardcover. It was very, very nice. It was also very, very canny. Most of you would probably have guessed that I have The Adolescent as a Penguin Classic. And so it took a bit of a gamble. I'm always telling people on this channel, don't get me a book. And one of you must have thought, well, he says don't get me a book. And he probably has the Penguin Classic. But I bet he'll want this. And you were right. Whoever had that gamble was right. And it has happened again. How incredible. No note. This is the Everyman Classic edition of the Count of Monte Cristo. There's one of my favorite paintings the young man with glove, an introduction by Umberto Eco, but nobody's perfect. This is incredible, absolutely incredible. How incredibly nice. Are you people going to build me an Every Man's Library classic collection? Is that what you're going to do? Because this is the Adolescence and now Count of Monte Cristo. What more is coming? I don't have the Boswell's Life of Johnson in this form. What I wouldn't give. I don't have any Jane Austen except Pride and Prejudice. I only have one, Charles Dickens. Oh, this is great. Okay. All right. This is the Peter Washington translation with an introduction by Umberto Eco. It has the cover that I adore. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, whoever you are. In this case, I can't even say you know who you are because there's no note. But anyway, all right, so there's the mail. This video took long enough, didn't it? The two books are a Thor epic collection that I ordered myself, and the Count of Monte Cristo in this great old Every Man's Library hardcover. Fantastic. What two great bursts of joy for the bookish side of my life, and then a bunch of periodicals. GQ, Vanity Fair, National Geographic, and the New York Review of Books, all of which, except for GQ, have real good stuff in them. What GQ has in it is a photo spread where you take a mentally ill person to a ranch that some assistant bought in his name, and he's wandering around with the horses, and you read the article, and he's saying, I love horses, I think they're the most graceful animals in the world, and you look at the photo, and they're cows. And GQ ought to be ashamed of themselves for taking advantage of this person when he doesn't know where he is, when he has no idea what he's saying from moment to moment. And also they ought to be ashamed of themselves for pushing $3,000 leather shorts, honestly. But all the rest, oh my God. All the rest, very glad to have. And now two books that I'm very glad to have. Great. All right, this has gone on way too long. Sorry about that. I will wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, Book 2.